How's it going, everybody? By the time you might see this, it might be Halloween. It might be past Halloween, so I'd like to wish you a happy Halloween. A good old mix of a lot of traditions, but, if you didn't know Jack-o'-lantern, that one's Irish. Um, I just come to you today to do an update video, seeing as that's kind of how I do it, since I have to work long stretches and I get long stretches off. And I have been trying to put out 2 videos a week, and I am 80% succeeding on that. But yeah, I show you this nightmare run only because I just finished it and I was getting everything set up and typing up script for the video. But yeah, good damage here. This is now my main clan boss team, if you're wondering. Harder to speed tune, but I mean, it's better. And I think I cut this one short. No, I didn't. No, that one went the full length. Excuse me. Alright, there's some things to talk about in Raid. We got the fusion. We'll get to that. Let's go here. There's a new promo code, and it is this. Look behind you. There's a QR code they put out. There was a lot of controversy. A lot of people were upset. Like, just give us the code. Fuck you. I don't want to do any of this extra work. I swear to God, the community... I see both sides, you know what I mean, in most all things. I can understand a little bit here and a little bit there. But that was just ridiculous. People are being crazy. But just, the code is look behind you. Okay, that's it, confirm. And looks like we're getting 3 energy refills, 250,000 silver, 3-day XP, and a couple multi-battles, which I'm going to use right now because, RSL helpers down because of the update, and with that update we got a new faction, and I'm pretty stoked on it. I really like the nature stuff. The legendaries look great. Lil looks cool. I mean, aesthetically, as always, Plarium's just kicking the shit out of it. They even said that they used a new way to render these champions, so they have, like, I don't know how to put it, but they're going to look a little different, and they have more freedom to do different things with the champions. So I thought that was pretty cool. But this chick looks pretty cool. She's actually very good support. Let me look at my script here. What's the first thing we're going to talk about? Okay, let's talk about the controversy over Mycolic Priest Orn, right? Or Myciliac. Myciliac. He's a mushroom priest, okay? That's what that means. And he was debuted in a couple videos as being the best epic in the game before he was released. The test servers were showing that he could solo dragon with food, and he could do it in about a minute 7 was the fastest I saw in Hell Hades video. Raid saw this and they went, nope, nobody should be able to be doing that faster than Tomb Lord, Bad Alcazar, and nobody should be able to compete with Theodore the Savant if they're an epic. And I have to agree, it does suck. A lot of people were really hyped for this guy because, if anything else, they were just going to go for this guy and not go for Morrigan. And they were going to be happy with this guy because, in retrospect, he was going to be better, right? They've made this a lot more RNG on this here. I think this was 100% before, but now they've booked it. It's now at 75%. That happens, and they decreased how much he heals off this as well, because this 5% of their max HP for each poison is now down to 1. And Mycelium, this I think stayed the same. I think this stayed the same, actually. This might have been 10% stacks up to 50 or 30, I can't remember, but they had to nerf him. I did just what they had to do, and it was a good thing they nerfed him before he was released to the player base. Because if we'd had another Eurogrim fiasco, I don't know what would have happened to the community. People would have been rioting. There'd have been heads on pikes. It'd have been French Revolution. Who knows? Who knows? And let's talk about the controversy over the fusion. Okay, so we'll just pull up the news and look at it here. You need to get 4 Orns, and to get 4 Orns, you need to get 16 Kates. By the way, you can only get Kates. They posted the breakdown of it in like a graph kind of deal that they always do. And there's Ornn at the bottom, and you cannot get an extra copy of him. Not possible. Okay. You can only get Kate's, and there's champion training event. Interesting. And with that, you start looking at the events and at the tournaments, and you're like, okay, artifact enhancement event, that's pretty standard, but this seems a little high. I feel like this is around 3,000 generally for traditional fusions. And that's another thing too. This is a traditional fusion. This isn't a fragment fusion. This isn't a hybrid. This is traditional fusion. It means it's the hardest fusion on your resources, right? And you have to really think about how you use resources if you don't want to spend money or gems. But the caveat is we're going to start coming over here and looking at this. 3,500 for a rare. Okay. 9,350 for a rare on champion training event. Now, I should do a video about what's the best way to get champion training points. It's very easy, but it is time consuming and resource consuming. And putting a second rare all the way down here when this is an epic, generally, that's just psychotic. I don't know what they're pulling here. And they're baiting everybody with an Immortal Soul Stone, and then for a Legendary Skill Tome. I want the Skill Tome, and I don't really give two flying rats' asses about the Soul Stone, so I might just go all the way down to here and get it. I had very much heavily considered skipping this fusion because it looked like bullshit, but I have the resources, and I skipped the last one, so... And she looks cool. Who knows? Hopefully you kept up with your fusion warm-up to get yourself that free Void Shard. And then let's go and look at the tournaments right now. So right now we got Fire Knight tournament going on, as you can see. Pretty sure I'm still in first. I'm in first, probably not for long. This guy is really wanting to fight with me. I don't want first. I just want to get up to here and be done with it. I don't see any Dungeon Divers events going on starting tomorrow. There'll probably be one starting on Saturday or Sunday. But I'm just going to grab these two and be done with it, get this stuff, and then whatever, let these other schmucks run past me, because it's not worth it to me. And as you see, we have a Champion Chase tournament. Now, also in the Champion Chase tournaments, you would see epics be rewards in there, and we don't know what rewards we're going to have yet, because you see the tournament's not live for like another 16 hours, and then we'll see what the rewards are, see if there was actually misinformation put out about the fusion to where they're like, okay, you can get an extra epic, here's another Ornn and stuff, because people really want that. What's also going on tomorrow, let's just look at it here, right here. We're having a ×2 ×10. ×2 to get legendaries out of Sacreds, right? And then a ×10 for Michinaki. This dude looks cool. I love his portrait here. I wish his character model was more detailed, kind of like his portrait. But he looks like Ghost Rider. Like he even has a chain with a head on it, and the chain and the flaming skull. They definitely took inspiration from Ghost Rider, so good for them. I like that. I really like when they do the pop culture references, and you're just like, yes, I like this. But I want to tell you something. If they're doing a ×2 ×10 Sacreds this weekend, and we haven't had a guaranteed Sacred event in, like, I don't know, a couple months, guess what's probably going to happen on Tuesday? Here's my little freaking conspiracy theory. They're going to do a guaranteed champion. It's going to be legendary, obviously. And guess what faction it's going to be from? It's going to be from here, the Sylvan Watchers. And I was talking to a couple of the clan mates, and we were trying to decide if it was going to be Elva, King Galkabar, or Green Warden Ruark. And we're leaning on Ruark here because he actually has this new ability, Taunt. Now, Taunt, if you don't know, is the brother to Provoke, okay? In some ways, it's better. I like it. You don't need accuracy to place a Taunt debuff, right? Now we have two different things. You have Taunts, right? We used to use that word for Provokes. Now we have Provokes here and then Taunt buffs here. Debuffs and buffs. Okay? You just place this buff and that's it. When you place a Taunt buff on somebody, it makes it so the enemy of your team can only target that person. But instead of using a basic ability, they can use any of their abilities. Good, bad, indifferent, still fine. But I think to showcase this new mechanic, they're going to say, all right, we're going to do Green Warden Ruark on Tuesday as a guaranteed champion from 15 Sacred Swords if you didn't get him before that. I think he looks fine. And this is, again, purely just speculation on my part. But, I mean, it's like the portents say it is time. Okay? So let's look at his kit. Whenever an ally loses 10% or more of their max HP from a single hit, they'll get a shield buff on them for 2 turns equal to 10% of their HP. This is a 0-turn cooldown when booked. That's pretty cool, so it just keeps happening. Call of the Wild. This books to a 4-turn. He gets taunt, and then he places increased defense and strengthen on himself for 2 turns. That's pretty cool. Give himself survivability. This books up to a 100% chance of playing decreased attack. And he also steals all continuous heal buffs from each enemy. This effect cannot be resisted. So he doesn't need accuracy except for the decreased attack. And this books to a 3-turn cooldown. So that's kind of cool. It's really weird that this continuous heal buff is a thing. But if you want to think about it, have you ever had that happen where the 3% chance procs on Hydra when the Head of Mischief steals a bunch of... So you have a Krisk or somebody, or a Withier the Crowned, and the Head of Mischief takes all those continuous heal buffs and then spreads it to everybody. I want you to think about something. He does this ability, Rust Consumes You, and steals all of those. Pretty crazy. And then his A1, it's Sword of the Glades. Attacks an enemy, transfers all debuffs from himself to the target, and then heals himself by 5% of their max HP for each debuff transfer. That's pretty cool. So, I think he's just very solid. If he is going to be the one that they guarantee, since this is a new faction and the faction crypts will open up in some time, he probably would be one to go for if you've been stockpiling. I myself am at 30 Sacreds. And let's just look at King Galkabar. Now, if they did him, a lot of people are really interested in this guy because he seems really cool. Let's look at his passive. Bramble Shaman. Whenever an enemy under a poison debuff attacks an ally under a shield, instantly activates a poison on that enemy. Also instantly activates continuous heal buff on the attacked ally. That's kind of cool. His A3 Hypertrophy. Books to a 3-turn, removes all debuffs from all allies, and places continuous heal buff for 1 turn on each ally for every debuff removed from them. And then also places shield on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to 24% of this guy's max HP. And then his A1, his A2, Vitrolic Thorns, books to a 3-turn. It's a 100% chance to land, attacks all enemies, removes all their buffs, and exchanges them for poison debuffs for 2 turns, the big poisons, for every buff removed. So if they have 5 buffs and you remove all 5, they're going to get 10 poison debuffs on them. And then it also has an 80% chance, books to 100, of placing block buffs on all enemies for 1 turn. Okay? That'd be cool if this was 2 turns, but like you can get the buff extender with Hexmaster, so that's fine. And then Tangle Staff is his A1, attacks an enemy, places shield for 2 turns on the ally with the lowest HP. I think that's just like Kreela, and the value of the shield is 50% of that ally's max HP. Okay, I think this guy is legit. I think he looks really cool. There's definitely going to be some fun stuff you can do with him in Hydra, Doom Tower, stuff like that. But out of all the 3 of them that are not Void, I think Elva Autumnborn is the best. And I think if they were like, okay, if Plarium was merciful, and they said, she's the guaranteed champ, 15 Sacred, I'm going to tell you right now, you go for it. If you want to make Faction Wars easy, because she is the one with the revive that's currently out. But let's look at her aura. Increase ally speed in all battles. Actually, you know what? There's an aura on Green Warden, ally defense in all battles by 30%, and he's defense based for damage, so sorry. Get back to this. 19%, that's about average for a legendary. She has a passive, Leaf Shroud, heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. That's pretty cool. And then places Perfect Veil on for 1 turn on the ally with the lowest HP at the end of this champion's turn. So, could put her in Relentless, and she could get that procking off, but if somebody just has, 1 buff, or they're the lowest one forever, then it's just going to be on 1 person. But it's something to consider. It's never a bad thing to have the support in Relentless, because they cycle back to their abilities faster. Her coup de grace this A3 Sprouting Season. She revives an ally, books to 3 turns with 40% HP and 50 turn meter, then places increased defense on them and increased attack buff on that ally for 2 turns. That's pretty good. She also has an ability here that books to a 3-turn cooldown, and it's a 100% chance of happening. She will remove all debuffs from allies, 100%, then places block debuffs on them and increase speed on all allies for 2 turns. Very solid. I like this chick. She looks aesthetically great. She very much looks like a Dryad. And then Scepter of Thriving is her A1, attacks an enemy, places continuous heal buff for 2 turns on the ally with the lowest HP. And then obviously, since she's support, her damage is based on attack. She only has 1 attack ability, so it doesn't matter. And her base stats are great. She's 2 speed slower than most like very fast legendary champions. She's 110. Very cool. Let's look at Alil or Alo. This guy's a weird attack champion. Aesthetically, this guy's kicking ass. I love like the Lord of the Forest vibe he gives off with these antlers. He definitely reminds me of like the Hellboy universe and the Golden Army stuff about the fairy people and stuff. Because I feel like if we get fairy champions, it's going to be in the Sylvan Watchers. And I'd very much like to see that kind of stuff. He has a crit rate in all battles by 25% aura. He has a passive, increases his HP by 2,000 and defense by 100 for every 1,000 attack he has. And then fills his champion's turn meter by 10% whenever they receive a buff. Pretty cool. A3 attacks all enemies. It's called Chill Wind of Autumn. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. Before attacking, removes any increased defense buff on each target and replaces them with a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Also removes any strengthen and replaces them with weaken. He will place block buff debuffs for 1 turn on enemies not under increased defense or strengthen buffs before attacking. So he could actually, you can run him in Hydra, thinking about it. But it's only for a turn. The buff removal and the debuff placement cannot be resisted. He doesn't need accuracy. And you're going to find this in his kit. He does not need accuracy. He just does things. He just is. And he's a Void Legendary. And his abilities that we'll go over here in a minute, they are Void Legendary abilities. It's great to see that finally happen. His A2, Pierce a Carapace, 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks an enemy, it will ignore Strengthen, Stone Skin, increased defense and ally protection buffs. But you see how it doesn't say anything about shield. If this attack kills an enemy, it will fully heal him and give him Stone Skin for a turn. And this attack hits hard. And his A1 is like, mwah, it's very cool. Gnarled Scythe attacks one enemy, steals all their buffs from that target if this is the first attack on that enemy with this skill. This effect cannot be resisted. Each subsequent time this champion attacks an enemy, no buffs will be stolen, but instead the damage he does will be increased by 10% for each buff on the target. So this whole faction currently with the legendaries is punishing you for having buffs. They're removing them, they're replacing them with debuffs, they're dealing you more damage for having them, and it really does feel like this faction is, okay, the other races have learned to start using magic and do all this stuff, but almost feels like it's in a corrupting nature, and these guys are the punishers. Feels very cool. Base speed is amazing, 105. Defense for attack champion obviously is low and weak. He's squishy. He has a very high attack for 1630, and he's about average for everything else. And now we have Cormac the High Peak. He is an attack-based epic. I really don't care for this guy. He does bring in increased ally attack in all battles by 20%, which is pretty decent. His A3 tempo shift, he'll give increased accuracy and increased crit rate buff on himself for 3 turns and then gives him an extra turn. This is a 4-turn cooldown, technically a 3-turn cooldown with the extra turn. But it is nice that you see him giving himself increased accuracy. He has High Peak's Reach, 4-turn to a 3-turn cooldown, and this is a 100% chance when booked. Attacks one enemy before attacking them. He will give them decreased defense for 2 turns. And then his A1 Drover attacks one enemy, 40% chance of placing decreased speed on them for 2 turns. And this books up to 50% chance. This guy, really nothing to write home about. Very lackluster. Let me see what the reviews are. Yeah, nobody cares for this guy right now. I mean, the good news is he's attack champion. and I think he does hit hard. He is a solo nuker, single target, but he also gives himself increased accuracy, so you can put him at like 200 accuracy. It's pretty easy to get to, and then just slam one person. We have Duodin the Runic. This guy is very cool looking. He's a golem made from pretty much all of nature, and he's got some trophies here of human skulls on him, or elf skulls. But he also has skulls inside of him. So it makes me feel like this guy was probably like a mass burial stone. Like, this is where it was placed, and then some magic happened, and then he enveloped it, and then became possessed and just started whooping ass. I don't know. He looks cool. He looks like a cross between a Wendigo and a golem. Celtic, whatever. Make of it what you will. Again, I think this faction will be like a heavily inspired by Celtic mythology. But he's an HP-based champ. He has an aura that increases everybody's defense by 20%. His A3 Lure of Fools. It's a 3-turn cooldown when booked. He also has a new buff Taunt on himself for 1 turn, but also places a 25% strengthen and a counterattack on himself for 2 turns. And his damage is based off HP. Protector Effigy. It's a 4-turn cooldown. The books only give it more damage and shield percentage. Attacks all enemies. Places a shield on all allies for 2 turns equal to 15% of this champion's max HP. And then increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. So he is kind of like a Godseeker Neri in a sense with that ability. He has Lodestone Claws as a wand, attacks an enemy, 60% chance when booked of removing 1 random debuff from all allies. This guy is nothing to write home about either. He's pretty lackluster other than his visual effects. And as you can see, people really don't care for him except in Hydra, which is kind of cool. Because I think on his A1 he can just, you know, he ends up getting a 60% chance of cleansing fears and true fears, which is nice. And Pain Link and stuff. Dahi, I think is how this is said when I watched Nubkek's video, because this is apparently an Irish pronunciation. Miswriter Dahi. He is an attack-based champion. His base stats are nothing to write home about. He has an accuracy in all battles by 40%, or I'm sorry, 40, not 40%. He looks pretty plain Jane. He is very much a wood elf. He has no irises. He is all white eyes. His A3 Hunt the Mists, 4-turn cooldown, gives himself increased attack and increased accuracy on himself for 3 turns, and then gives him an extra turn. So again, this is a 3-turn cooldown realistically on that. His A2 Squall of Shafts, 4-turn cooldown no matter what, but books to 100% chance of attacking all enemies. We'll place decreased defense on them for 2 turns, and grants an extra turn if decreased defense debuff is placed on all enemies by this skill. So that's pretty cool. This guy just cycles his turns. So obviously you're going to want to put him in a relentless set to get the most out of him. And his A1 is Briar Arrows, attacks 1 enemy, has a 50% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target, also has a 10% chance of granting this champion an extra turn. So this guy I think will just be nutty for single target damage. You could realistically put him into Fire Knight and just see what he does. Not for Fire Knight 25, I think it is, because isn't that Spirit? We'll have to check. But not bad. We already did Ornn. Let's do Ruella. Now this chick, she is made for Fire Knight. All right. She has great base speed, 112. That's ridiculous on an epic. She has decent attack. She is an attack-based champion. Her aura is accuracy in dungeons by 40. Her A3, it's a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Fills the turn meters of all allies by 20% and gives them increased crit rates for 2 turns. Amazing. Her A2, it's a 4-turn cooldown, but when booked, let's see, 60, 70, you can get it up to 75% chance. Attacks 1 enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 75% chance when booked with Master Hexer. Of placing decreased defense debuff and a 25% chance of placing, or a 25% weaken and a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Now these all you want on Fire Knight. And then her A1 Harassment Volley attacks 1 enemy 3 times. Each critical has when booked 100% chance of stealing 5% of their turn meter. I think she's going to be fantastic for Fire Knight, especially if you're not at the end game of Fire Knight. She is going to be clutch in your like Fire Knight 20 team. And she, you know what? She's very pretty. Very good job here. She has like some dragon skin, lizard man cloak. That's a wing, so definitely like that really does look like Drake's Blood's wing. That's kind of cool. And then we have the last one, White Dryad Naya. She's pretty cool. She's a defense-based champion. Her speed is not as fast as Ruella. Her resistance is pretty decent, 45. Her defense is decent. Let's go over her abilities. Her passive, Broad Roots. Whenever this champion is healed, heals each ally except this champion by 20% of that heal. Pretty cool. Put her in a regen set. Have a good time. Bark Flesh. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. Places ally protection on everybody but her. And then gives her 15% strengthen on all allies for 2 turns. So, obviously that couldn't be the big strengthen because even though she's a Void Epic, she would be just God tier. She'd be up there legendary level like Madame Saris and Miscreant Monster. Her A2, Riotous Revival. It's a 3-turn cooldown. She will remove all debuffs from a target ally and then heals them by 40% of their max HP. If the target of this skill is not this champion, decreases the cooldown of all the target skills by 2 turns. That's cool. Very, very cool. And then Strangling Plants. Attacks all enemies. 30% chance, 50% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns. So you can even run her in a Sunset because she has this AoE A1. Right? So I like her. She looks cool. She's got like this birch armor, or birch armor on. Birch bark. That's where words get put to 2. And she has these like auburn looking eyes, almost like she is an albino. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Good luck tomorrow if you're pushing for Michinaki. Maybe I shouldn't end the video now. Maybe we should go over him. I'm sorry, Michinaki. He is great, right? Speed's decent. He's defense-based champion. He has an aura that's defense in all battles by 30%. And like I said, like he's got a chain with a head on it. So this chain with the flame and the flames around the chain. He's definitely like a Japanese Ghost Rider. I wish the flames were more so on his face too. If they would just move that effect a little forward. Or have it like come out of his eyes or something. That'd be cool. His passive is Courser of Curses. This is like the best part of him. That's a lie. His whole kit is amazing. Whenever an ally attacks and attacks an enemy under Hex, there's a 50% chance he's going to join that attack. And with that, his A1, 60%, get it up to 65 with Master Hexer, of placing HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Or Sniper. It's one of the 2, Sniper or Master Hexer. But I assume you're going to pick both of those when you do his masteries. This is an amazing skill. This is where Hex is actually fine, that you actually want it. Because it doesn't cost you anything else. This guy's kit makes it just happen, right? Doubled Degeneracy. 3-turn cooldown when booked. He attacks all enemies 2 times. The first hit will remove all buffs from each target. And then the second will give them Hex for 2 turns. Now, he is a magic champion, so if you're going up against Force, you can weak hit, so that does suck. But that is an amazing ability. And the animation's great. It's just a bunch of chains come out of nowhere and just slam into the enemy. His A2, Dire Whirl. It's a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance when booked. He'll attack all enemies and place decreased defense for 2 turns, which is amazing. Also has a 100% chance of placing decreased attack for 2 turns on enemies under Hex debuffs. He's going to be great in Clan Boss, Hydra Clan Boss, Faction Wars, all the Doom Tower bosses. I love this guy. That's why I'm actually going to pull down to 15 Sacreds tomorrow to try and get him. I pray to the gods I get him. We also have a little epic here that not a lot of people are talking about. There's some stirrings about her. So this is Lady Annabelle. Now, she is essentially based on the Blood Countess. If you know that story, it's about a woman that would kill young women and bathe in their blood to look young. and she was rumored to be a vampire, and this is exactly what I'm getting from this. Maybe even a hard-on, because these tits are just out there. It's fantastic. Good for them, I guess. You got to get that player base in somehow. She is a support champion. Her base speed's a little low, I think, for her support, but maybe for an epic support, that's fine. Her passive heals herself by 50% of their max HP whenever an ally or an enemy dies. So this really reminds you of Burengiri, because he does something very similar. So that's what the stirrings are about. People think you can just smack a bunch of resistance onto her and give her maybe a little bit of accuracy. It really won't matter, will it? Can't really get that much. But give her some resistance and she'll be able to solo bommel. Put her in, I would say, a toxic set and she'll be able to solo bommel. Sanguine Exchange is her A3. It's a 4-turn cooldown when booked. She'll swap her HP with a target ally. If this champion's HP is equal to or higher than the target's after the swap, we'll place Revive on Death on the target ally for 2 turns. If this champion's HP is lower, it will place, after the swap, it will place a Revive on Death on on herself. And then also gives all allies increased speed. So that's not a bad one. Her A2, Captivator, it's a 3-turn cooldown when booked, 100% chance when booked. Attacks all enemies, gives them leech, and also places decreased speed on them for 2 turns on targets with less than 50% turn meter. That's a very good skill. And her A1 attacks an enemy 2 times. Each hit heals the champion by 3% of their max HP. And she has very good base max HP. Whew! We got through it. And also, I'm sorry for sounding nasally and stuff. I don't know what happened, but last night my throat started hurting, so I'm probably sick again. And, yeah. Sinuses started draining, and then you get to sound like this. But that's it. If you're wondering, I run stage 20 on Fire Knight for tournaments. I know you probably shouldn't, especially at my endgame, because you really want that Savage and Regen gear. But it doesn't matter to me. It's all about achieving the goal, and the goal is I'm going to get Morrigan. I believe I did go over her before in a video, and if not, I'll make a new video. Alrighty, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. And remember, be cautious with your sacreds this weekend, because I'm telling you right now, there's blood in the water, and I'm sensing something coming next Tuesday. Alright? Peace.